12, she wasn't expected to live, but now a transplant patient with 2 new lungs is starting over. Her amazing story coming up. Not the official Olympics, but the transplant Olympic Games in Florida. Tonight from Health Watch 12, Lori Stafford introduces us to one amazing athlete running her race on borrowed breath.
This may not sound healthy, but for 30-year-old Kay Bauer, it's a sure sign her lungs are working. Each breath she takes is music to her ears.
I don't know. It used to be, if I'm breathing this hard, I'm in big trouble.
That's because all her life, her lungs have been dying, damage from cystic fibrosis. Doctors tried everything, but she still ended up in the hospital. Her only chance of survival, a double lung transplant.
I never expected that I'd be married or that I'd even turn 30.
But the transplant changed that. Instead of her worst fears coming true, her happiest dreams are a reality.
And there is the Eiffel Tower.
The operation 2 years ago allowed her to travel to Europe, turn 30, and get married, all within the same year.
I'm married with you or no?
Yeah.
Now she's preparing for another challenge.
I'm training for the 2000 U.S. Transplant Games.
With her husband Eric as her coach.
You can't think you don't want to. You got to think, okay, 200. You got to do this in the race. You got to do it now.
All right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You do fine.
She's making strides in the 100 and the 200-meter sprint.
It's going okay. I think I'll be more prepared for 2002.
And the same winning spirit that kept Kay fighting for more time in life also keeps her pushing for a better time on the track.
That was 22, too.
That was horrible.
Kay is lucky to get this chance. 10 to 15% of those waiting for a lung transplant die on the waiting list.
Yeah, it's something we think about a lot, how all of this is so miraculous.
A life saved. Doctors say more could be saved if more people remember to sign their donor card.
It's very satisfying to see a patient such as Kay, who can come from being very limited or looking at death in the face and be very functional.
It's not just giving somebody a new chance of life, it's giving them a completely new life.
A life where how quickly she crosses the finish line doesn't matter, because just running the race makes her a champion. Lori Stafford, Health Watch 12.
The Transplant Olympic Games take place next week at Disney World in Orlando. Kay's husband will be videotaping it for us, and we'll let you know how she does. Well, despite the rain, with his straw poll, so you can weigh in on the current events of the time. Team Wisconsin just returned from the Transplant Olympic Games in Florida, and among them, an athlete we met last week, 30-year-old Kay Bauer.
Kay is a double lung transplant recipient, but that did not stop her from running the 100 and 200-meter sprints. Tonight in Health Watch 12, Lori Stafford shows us Kay's home video diary of making her Olympic dream a reality.
A sea of Badger red caught everyone's eye at the 2000 Transplant Olympic Games in Orlando, Florida last week.
There are 52 team members from Wisconsin, 80 donor family members, and 5 living donors,
including 30-year-old Kay Bauer of Cudahy.
It was really amazing, very moving and emotional.
Suffering from cystic fibrosis since birth, Kay's lungs finally became so severely damaged that they couldn't provide her with the breath of life. So 2 years ago, an unknown donor gave her a life-saving double lung transplant. With new lungs, she had a chance to do something she'd never done before, become an athlete. She began training for the Transplant Olympic Games. Her husband Eric coached her for several months and then videotaped the big moment, her first athletic competition ever, the 100-meter sprint.
Go Kay!
Kay pressed toward the finish line with courage and gusto, and amazingly, she took second place. That gave her even more confidence for the 200-meter sprint.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, that's great.
Her hard work, months of training, and lifetime of waiting to be an athlete finally paid off.
The silver medal from Team Wisconsin, Kay Bauer.
Organizers placed 2 silver medals around her neck. Now back in Wisconsin, she says the thrill of winning those medals pales in comparison to the emotional moment of thanking the donors and their families.
And everybody in the stadium stood and applauded and cheered for the donor families, because that's why we really were all there.
Now Kay is looking forward to going back to the games in 2 years.
I got something to shoot for next time, too. Next time, go for the gold.
Already a double lung transplant recipient and a double medal winner, she's not willing to waste a single breath. Lori Stafford, Health Watch 12.
Good work, Kay. Wisconsin athletes won 12 medals, and some of the winners could go on to the international competition in Tokyo.
You know, sometimes you'll see somebody wheeling.
She's agreed to share with us some of her thoughts and feelings about organ donation and being a recipient. Okay?
So there I am, about 2.5 years ago, ready to start a new job. It's about a year after I've had a transplant. And I'm worried about all that new job stuff. Am I going to know what I'm doing? Am I going to get lost in the building? Who am I going to eat lunch with? But I was really worried about whether or not to tell people that I've had a transplant. And do they really need to know? There was one particular coworker who was what you might call a close talker. You know, he talks right in your face, whether or not he's sick. And I'm worried about whether he's got the flu or malaria or the plague or something. And I would ask him kind of to keep his distance. He just thought I was being rude. And later that year, as I was preparing for the U.S. transplant games, which I'll talk about a little later, I mentioned it to a couple of my coworkers, and they wanted to put an article in the company newsletter. Well, then the secret was out. Everybody knew I had had a transplant. And I was astonished at how supportive people were, how many questions they had, and wanted to know how they could be organ donors too. After that, the close talker, he was a little more understanding. And he even had brought in a cake for me when I had come back from Florida with 2 silver medals from the transplant games. It's amazing I had gotten any medals at all. I mean, here I was. What was I going to do in the transplant games? I can't swim. I don't run. I don't ride my bike very fast. I couldn't run. I mean, before the transplant, I would be winded just going from a short jog. I had cystic fibrosis my whole life, and any exertion would mean endlessly trying to catch my breath and coughing for 10 minutes just to recover. But now I had somebody else's lungs in me. Could I be a runner? So that was my goal. I was going to be a runner. My husband helped me train, and as the transplant games were approaching, the local news station wanted to do a story. So in June of last year, I traveled to Florida for the transplant games. And I was really prepared to be competitive there, but I think I came away with something much more inspirational. And for those of you who haven't been there, the big highlight of the transplant games is the opening ceremonies, where all of the transplant recipients file into this big baseball stadium and fill the entire lower tier of the stadium. And you look around and you think, all these people have had transplants, and here they are. And they're active and healthy, and they're just like me. And then the most emotional, amazing part of it all is when the donor families come into the stadium and they're greeted with cheers and standing ovations. And it's amazing to think that they're the reason that all of us are really here. So when I got back to Milwaukee, there was a TV crew waiting to interview me at the airport, and they wanted to know how I did in Florida. But what I really wanted to tell them was the impression that the transplant games had made on me, and the experiences and the people that I met there. I realized I really had a responsibility just to tell my story, just to let people know that organ transplants really can change lives. I never thought I had a future. One group that I spoke with was a group of high school biology students. Okay, these are 15 and 16-year-old kids. What could I possibly talk to them about that they would be the least bit interested in? I explained to them how CF made me sick my whole life, how it claimed the lives of my sister and my brother. I think the kids were surprised that a transplant could change somebody's life entirely. I never thought I would be able to travel or to get married or do anything that normal people can do. I'd like to share what one student wrote to me after visiting that day. I was very much against donating my organs. However, you really made me see firsthand how a miracle can happen when a person is gracious enough to be a donor. I am now a donor. I was inspired to know that I changed one girl's mind by doing nothing more than telling my little story. If you have the opportunity to share your story, I would encourage you to, and I know many of you do. It's important for us as transplant recipients to share the responsibility of continuing to help those who are still waiting. And isn't it wonderful that we live in a country that we have that opportunity? Thank you.
Thank you, Kay. Served at noon across the street, and for the rest of the transplant picnic events. Thanks very much.
Got it.
Now, turn around. Both of you. Turn around. Eric, turn around.
Smile.
Now get a picture of you.
Why are you doing
I don't know.
People laughed.
Yeah, we were funny. Through Milwaukee. Olympic Committee representatives announced the names of area torchbearers at the Pettit National Ice Center today. The group will join more than 11,000 other torchbearers in 46 different states. The Olympic Caravan will reach Milwaukee January 5th. It will come from Chicago and then head to Michigan. As our Jenna Miller shows us, the local torchbearers have been called to duty for some very good reasons.
Someone like me will never be able to make it to the Olympic Games.
But Kay Bauer will carry the Olympic torch in Milwaukee.
It was a great school when
She was born with cystic fibrosis. A double lung transplant gave her a second chance at life, and she uses it to educate others about organ donation.
I don't see myself as an inspiration, really. I mean, it's like you deal with what you got, and you just, take it one day at a time.
And the pictures of this day in 1996, when the torch traveled through Milwaukee, show that the experience of carrying the world symbol is an honor. Here's a closer look at what holding the Olympic torch will feel and look like. This one is from Atlanta in 1996. And down below, engraved all of the names and dates of former Olympic sites. Susan Cooper nominated her father because of his support when she was a member of the rowing team in the 1987 Pan American Games.
And they were just so supportive, and they were so proud that I was representing the United States, that just to see the love on their face was just worth it as a child.
Susan then got the news that the relay team wanted her father and her. So, January 5th, Susan will pass the Olympic torch to her father, just as he passed the nobility torch onto her. In Milwaukee, Jenna Miller, today's TMJ4.
It has become a family affair for Eric and Kay Bauer. Vivian.
Carol, I'm live at the Pettit National Ice Center, where tomorrow there'll be a big celebration for the end of the torch relay in Milwaukee. But of course, before then, torchbearers will be running their specific legs of the relay, and that's what will make some wonderful memories for Eric and Kay Bauer.
in my room. Down a couple more.
An English and creative writing teacher at Homestead High School, Eric Bauer used his skills to pay tribute to his wife. He logged on to the Olympic website and in 50 words or less wrote why he thinks she's worthy of carrying the torch.
Well, she's a great wife, and she's she's a good friend to people.
But she has also overcome tremendous adversity. Born with cystic fibrosis, which caused repeated infections that damaged her lungs, Kay Bauer had to have a double lung transplant 3 years ago.
All the things that have happened to us in the last couple of years, marriage and honeymoon, and she participated in the Transplant Olympics, and all of that would never have happened had not she had the good fortune of having someone donate the organs that she needed to stay alive.
I'm excited that he thought enough of me that he nominated me in the first place.
Then a bigger surprise. The Olympic Committee chose Eric as a torch runner too, and he will be handing off to his wife, an experience of a lifetime that they will be able to share as a couple.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing that, you know, at that particular time will be the only one carrying the torch in the whole world. So it's a very much an honor and a privilege to be able to be a part of it.
And family and friends will be there to cheer on the Bauers, and then they're talking about coming here tomorrow night at the end of their torch run to celebrate the torch run in Wisconsin with everybody else.
Kay Bauer and her family celebrate Christmas a little late.
Because they decided to come down this weekend.
Not just any weekend. The weekend Kay and her husband Eric carried the Olympic torch in the Kenosha leg of the Wisconsin Tour.
She's in pretty good shape. She'll be able to do two blocks.
Kay wasn't in such good shape a few years ago. She was born with cystic fibrosis, a genetic lung disorder that progressed as she got older. In 1998, she had both of her lungs replaced.
5 years ago, I mean, I was not even thinking I had a future at all. I mean, it's one of those things you just aren't. I was very sick.
The complicated surgery was a success and gave Kay the determination to try something she'd never been able to do.
I never could run. Oh, I never was able to run. That was not the question.
But it was always her dream. So just weeks after surgery, Kay started running. Since then, she's won 2 medals in the Transplant Olympics with plans this year to go for the gold. When Eric heard about a search for torchbearers for the Winter Olympics, he went to work on the computer, entering a 50-word essay nominating his wife. Just recently, he got the email. They will both carry the flame.
It was very thoughtful that he had done that.
We are so proud of this young lady for everything she's accomplished.
Now, with family in town to cheer them on, Kay and Eric plan to carry the torch with pride, a symbol of their burning desire to make the most out of life.
She'll be able to do two blocks. She won't sprint it probably, but...
Well, if I go a little slower, then, you know, they have it for longer.
In Germantown, Kelly Joyce, CBS 58 News.
And the Olympic torch will arrive in Kenosha tomorrow morning at 11:50. There will be a brief ceremony in Pennoyer Park at 1 o'clock. It then travels north.
Fox 6 reporter Bob Moore tells you why the determined couple calls their torch run a symbol of victory over enormous odds.
However, we've only been married about 2 years, but during that time, she's done more to transform my life and my way of looking at life than any other person I've ever met.
That's the spirit of devotion 32-year-old Eric Bauer felt as he passed the 2002 Olympic torch to wife Kay. Since 1998, a double-lung transplant survivor.
Before the transplant, I wasn't able to do a lot of athletic things, even as much as climbing a flight of stairs. And since then, I've been able to do all kinds of things. I can run on a regular basis.
Kay's mom, Carol Newberg, ran the entire 2/10 of a mile distance curbside, trailing her daughter. Running without her husband, Ardell, Carol wanted to reaffirm to Kay a parent's unconditional support and love.
You were stride and stride there, young lady.
Yes, I know, and I'm really out of breath. But I'm just so proud of her. Her dad would be proud of her if he could have been here. He's passed away this past year, and but we are always have been very proud of all of her accomplishments.
Perry calls Kay's long-term health struggle and her miraculous new lease on life thanks to an organ donation a special testimony that needed to be told.
She continues to affect the community. She continues to speak on behalf of the Organ Donor Network to show people what life can be like because of organ donation.
I wanted to dedicate the run today to my donor family who made it possible for me to be here.
In Kenosha, along the torch relay, Bob Moore, Fox 6 News.
This summer, Kay will be running for the gold in the 2002 Transplant Olympics in Florida. During the last transplant games, Kay won 2 silver medals for running. And here now...
Yeah.
I'll keep the number.
Well, you know,
Yeah, all right.
You blow your nose again?
no.
Is it really?
Racing team?
I don't know. Okay. I'm not sure. I didn't even think that he might say here. He said, no, it was supposed to be
Yeah.
What are those other things behind
That must stay on both sides.
How you doing?
Excuse me. Well, there's the shuttle. It must be in there. They'll drop. You're dropping her off here, right? Yeah, they'll drop her off.
Yeah, here she goes.
They don't stop it. She jumps.
Hey, Kay, yes. We love you, Kay!
I think I moved. We gotta get out. Okay. Smile, Kay, smile. Where's Eric? Back up. Oh, here it comes. Oh, you're at the first one.
Slower, Kay.
How many calories is that an hour?
Okay, now let's go home. Now let's go home. Let's go
due to two Wisconsinites who got that opportunity, and they're not a minute of it.
Athletes will board a plane to Florida. They're heading to a national competition. Some have been there before. Others are making their first trip. Now, obviously, I can't tell you how they're going to place, but as you're about to see in tonight's Perry's People, they're already winners.
His body rocks on his feet, back and forth, waiting for the right time to go. Andy Irvin knows when it's his turn to go. He's got the waiting game down. To understand why a 69-year-old man gets such joy out of jumping into a sandpit, you have to see where he's been.
I couldn't walk 10 feet. I couldn't lay down flat on my back at night. I had to sit at a 45-degree angle. At a certain point, my wife had to take me to the hospital, get my lungs pumped out. I couldn't bathe myself.
This was Andy Irvin 3 years ago. A viral condition destroyed his original heart. July 23rd, 1999, he got a new one. He could walk, he could work out, he could cut his own grass, but he wanted more. He wanted to compete.
Just after I got my heart, I just started doing it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I hadn't done any of this before. And I started jumping. I'm not the greatest, but I do jump.
He taught himself to long jump after watching a videotape. He was good enough to win a silver medal at the 2000 Transplant Games, an Olympic-style event for those who have received an organ transplant.
Should be pretty good.
Kay Bauer of Richfield was at those same games. She, too, was a silver medalist.
A woman from the East Coast beat me last time.
Not bad for someone who was never an athlete as a teen. Cystic fibrosis made it impossible for her to run far or fast.
By the time I was in my 20s, it was hard to go up the flight of stairs. It was hard to just do day-to-day stuff.
At 27, she got a double lung transplant. How's she doing? Listen for yourself. That's the sound of a healthy couple of lungs. that are now in the body of a woman who wants you to know how lives change with organ donations.
To see that it's been a success and that it's really, really changed my life, that they are encouraged to maybe sign the back of their driver's license.
Both Kay and Andy say they've tried to thank their donor families. Somehow, words aren't enough. They want to show what they're doing with their second chance at life, which is why Andy will sprint, long jump, shot put, and high jump at the games in Orlando this week. Never mind, he's never high jumped before. He's seen a videotape.
Yes. Do you know how to high jump?
No, I've never high jumped, but I have a tape.
And he's watching it. It's a good thing they don't have ski jumping tapes, because I'm pretty sure Andy would give that a go, too. On a serious note, both athletes you met tonight stressed the importance of signing your driver's license if you want to be a donor. But Andy also wants to remind minorities of the importance of getting more involved in organ donation. A couple of remarkable people I met this week.
And an amazing story for both of them, especially when you got to hear her breathe after a double lung transplant.
Well, we'll let you know. They're competing in Orlando. The games start this Wednesday through the weekend. We'll keep you updated.
We hope they do very well.
Area Hospital wants to find more of these sources of inspiration. And the Medical College of Wisconsin are looking for candidates for what they call their Hope and Spirit Awards, honoring former patients who have overcome serious medical challenges. One person who has done just that is Kay Bauer. She is a cystic fibrosis patient who underwent double lung transplant surgery at Froedtert back in 1998. And Kay Bauer joins us today to talk about the Hope and Spirit Awards. Kay, thanks so much for being here. Good morning.
Well, thanks for having me.
Let's talk about how you feel now. You had double lung transplant surgery in 98. How do you feel today?
I feel great. Before my transplant, I was not able to do a lot of things. I wasn't able to do anything athletic at all. In that time, I was able to participate in the 2000 and 2002 transplant games and run and do well, actually compete. And I feel great. I mean, those are things that I never dreamed I could do.
And not only compete, but I mean, you are winning medals at these things. We have pictures to prove it.
Yeah, I won 2 silver medals in 2000 and 2 golds in 2002.
This is you accepting the gold medal?
Yeah.
In this award. And then we have another photo of you actually running in an event. What is it, 100 meters that you're running here? Do you remember? This particular race, I think, is the 100-meter sprint, if I'm not mistaken. And then, yes, and then I also ran the 200-meter sprint also. And that's amazing. So this Hope and Spirit Award, what are you guys trying, what types of people are you looking for? We're looking for people who are inspirational, who have stories to share, and hopefully people will nominate others that they know that inspire them to achieve more than just the regular everyday stuff. I mean, there's more to healthcare than just going to the clinic and getting some pills. There's a personal dedication to their health and making themselves more than just their disease. And Kay, I would imagine the road to recovery for you was very difficult. It was. First of all, it was a mental challenge to get over the fact that I can actually do these things now. Even if you can physically do something, sometimes it's a mental challenge just to get past that block to think, I can't do it. I have to believe that I can. Mm-hmm. And have you found that your story has inspired others? I hope that it has. I work with the Wisconsin Donor Network promoting organ donation because it's something obviously I believe in because it's worked for me, and I hope that my story, as I share it, helps others to recognize that too. Okay, well, Kay, thanks so much for being here. It's amazing what you've been able to accomplish. Again, if you would like to nominate a current or former Froedtert patient for a Hope and Spirit Award, just complete the entry form that you will find at the website Froedtert.com. The deadline for entries is April 15th, and they're looking for people who have really overcome some medical odds and are inspiring people around them. And they will announce the winners, 5 of them, at the start of the Summer Olympics in August. Right now,
and the Medical College of Wisconsin are taking the opportunity to recognize people who've also put in their hard work and joining us their hard work by overcoming injury or illness. And joining us this morning to talk more about a unique contest is Kay Bauer. Good morning.
Good morning.
Why don't you talk about the Hope and Spirit Awards a little bit?
Well, Froedtert Hospital is looking for patients who have overcome medical obstacles and faced challenges and have succeeded in ways other than their disease and their medical.
And you definitely fit in that category. Why don't you tell me about your story?
I was born with cystic fibrosis and was very sick by the time I was in my 20s. I received a double lung transplant in 1998, and it completely changed my life. I had never been able to do anything athletic or anything like that before. After the transplant, I was able to do a lot of things. Aside from traveling and getting married and all that kind of stuff, I was also running. And I participated in the transplant games in 2000 and 2002.
Now, for people that don't know, CF, that is, can you just explain that a little bit?
It's cystic fibrosis. It mostly affects the lungs. It's a genetic disorder and somewhat progressive. As CF patients get older, there's usually more and more complications, mostly with the lungs.
And again, like you said, physical activity really when you have CF is pretty difficult.
Right, yeah.
Okay, and talk about some of the people that you're looking for in this contest. People who not just illness, but also injury as well. My understanding.
Right, and are inspiring to others, I think, too. They're looking for people who have stories that would inspire others, to show others that they've overcome or injury. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And going back to your story a little bit, the life expectancy with CF is only about 30 years old?
That's correct, right.
Wow, so you've really overcome some obstacles yourself.
Yeah, I think so.
An inspiration for others. Okay, we want to thank you so much for coming in and sharing your story with us. And to nominate someone you think deserves the recognition, you can fill out and send in an entry form at Froedtert.com. You'll also need to write an essay on why your nominee deserves an award. And we'll put a link on our website later on today. You can scroll down to the As Seen on 12 link on the MilwaukeeChannel.com. Becky?
I'm alive and a competitive athlete today because
someone else made it possible for me to receive a lung
heart transplant. Now I encourage others to help raise awareness and funds for the Wisconsin Donor Network.
Join me at Sarah Stride, Saturday, May 22nd at Hart Park in Wauwatosa.
Walk 2 miles or run the 5K course.
Register at wisdonornetwork.org.
Or star 444 on your U.S. cellular phone.
Well, I was born with cystic fibrosis, so I've been seeing doctors my whole life. Since cystic fibrosis, or CF, is a progressive disease, I was very sick by the time I was in my 20s, and then I was listed for a transplant in 1997.
As it was in Kay's instance, lung transplant is a life-saving therapy.
We do try to personalize the care. You don't take care of a single person with a complex medical problem. You really have to take care of the entire family.
It's nice to have all these specialists there because somebody with cystic fibrosis has usually multiple complications. It's nice to have it all there in one place. So I never thought I had any kind of future. And, you know, I mean, I've done things now that I never dreamed I would do.
The joy of working with patients such as Kay is you see people going from looking at the last few months of life to, you know, a whole new lease on life.
Save big throughout the...
Recipient of a double lung transplant in March of 1998. She's agreed to share with us some of her thoughts and feelings about organ donation and being a recipient. Okay?
So there I am, about 2.5 years ago, ready to start a new job. It's about a year after I've had a transplant. And I'm worried about all that new job stuff. Am I going to know what I'm doing? Am I going to get lost in the building? Who am I going to eat lunch with? But I was really worried about whether or not to tell people that I've had a transplant. And do they really need to know? There was one particular coworker who was what you might call a close talker. You know, he talks right in your face, whether or not he's sick. And I'm worried about whether he's got the flu or malaria or the plague or something. And I would ask him kind of to keep his distance. But he just thought I was being rude. And later that year, as I was preparing for the U.S. transplant games, which I'll talk about a little later, I mentioned it to a couple of my coworkers, and they wanted to put an article in the company newsletter. Well, then the secret was out. Everybody knew I had had a transplant. And I was astonished at how supportive people were, how many questions they had, and wanted to know how they could be organ donors too. After that, the close talker, he was a little more understanding. And he even had brought in a cake for me when I had come back from Florida with 2 silver medals from the transplant games. It's amazing I had gotten any medals at all. I mean, here I was, what was I going to do in the transplant games? I can't swim, I don't run, I don't ride my bike very fast, or I couldn't run. I mean, before the transplant, I would be winded just going from a short jog. I had cystic fibrosis my whole life, and any exertion would mean endlessly trying to catch my breath and coughing for 10 minutes just to recover. But now I had somebody else's lungs in me. Could I be a runner? So that was my goal. I was going to be a runner. My husband helped me train, and as the transplant games were approaching, the local news station wanted to do a story. So in June of last year, I traveled to Florida for the transplant games. And I was really prepared to be competitive there, but I think I came away with something much more inspirational. And for those of you who haven't been there, the big highlight of the transplant games is opening ceremonies, where all of the transplant recipients file into this big baseball stadium and fill the entire lower tier of the stadium. And you look around and you think, all these people have had transplants, and here they are. And they're active and healthy, and they're just like me. And then the most emotional, amazing part of it all is when the donor families come into the stadium and they're greeted with cheers and standing ovations. And it's amazing to think that they're the reason that all of us are really here. So when I got back to Milwaukee, there was a TV crew waiting to interview me at the airport, and they wanted to know how I did in Florida. But what I really wanted to tell them was the impression that the transplant games had made on me, and the experiences and the people that I had met there. I realized I really had a responsibility just to tell my story, just to let people know that organ transplants really can change lives. I never thought I had a future. One group that I spoke with was a group of high school biology students. Okay, these are 15 and 16-year-old kids. What could I possibly talk to them about that they would be the least bit interested in? I explained to them how CF made me sick my whole life, how it claimed the lives of my sister and my brother. I think the kids were surprised that a transplant could change somebody's life entirely. I never thought I would be able to travel or to get married or do anything that normal people can do. I'd like to share what one student wrote to me after visiting that day. I was very much against donating my organs. However, it really made me see firsthand how a miracle can happen when a person is gracious enough to be a donor. I am now a donor. I was inspired to know that I changed one girl's mind by doing nothing more than telling my little story. If you have the opportunity to share your story, I would encourage you to, and I know many of you do. It's important for us as transplant recipients to share the responsibility of continuing to help those who are still waiting. And isn't it wonderful that we live in a country that we have that opportunity? Thank you.
Thank you, Kay. Served at noon across the street, and for the rest of the transplant picnic events. Thanks very much.
Got it.
Now, turn around. Both of you. Turn around. Eric, turn around.
Smile.
Now I get a picture of you.
Why are you doing
I don't know.
People laughed.
Yeah, we were funny.
Hey, really quick, and this will pertain to you for a quick moment also. We're going to move into the instructional part of our presentation. So, first of all, hang with us. It's as difficult as it's going to get today, I promise. And then we'll be in the clear. So, first of all, I gave all of you a number when you arrive. This number is going to mean 3 things to you. First of all, this number will be the number order in which you're running. Today.
And usually when Adrian's working, at that time the guy's gonna, I don't know if they're running motorcycles today. We usually have a guy on a motorcycle who's not here with somebody on the place. They'll be there to turn on again. And once they do that, they turn around and approach you. That's when it starts to get really exciting. That's when it's pretty cool. Alright, this side safe. Hands on this side. That was pretty good. Off. There are more than what you guys do. But so they're going to turn on the gas release. Turn around, see the plane. There's only a couple things you have to do. Anyway, so what you going to do is you're
I'll take the number.
Well, you know, yeah, all right.
Gonna blow your nose again?
No.
Is it really?
Racing team? I don't know. Okay. I'm not sure. I didn't even think of it. Same here. He said, no, I think he's supposed to be
Yeah.
What are those other things behind you? Emergency vehicles? Oh, there's the shuttle. It must be in there.
Yep.
They'll be dropping her off here, right?
Yeah, they'll drop her off.
Yeah, here she goes.
They don't stop it. She jumps.
Hey, Kay, yes. We love you, Kay!
I think I moved.
Woo!
Okay. Smile, okay, smile. Where's Eric?
And back up. Oh, here it comes. Oh, you're ready for one.
Slower, Kay.
How many calories is that an hour?
Alex, go home. Alex, go home. Down the hammer. Let's go home. Woo! Girls and tours.
always have to pray about her accomplishments and everything else. She's going to be her life.
Sure, it's not an understatement to say. Running a ministry, running for your deceased husband, just to be there representing those two parents that Carol, you ran to be there to show the parents are supportive. Tell me about that, Lee.
Yes, I just wanted to live with her. I just want to see a little bit more of her because she passed you so fast. And just the turnout is great there. People cheering for Kate and Eric. If it wasn't for Eric, he was on that boat that we sat on. Thank him too.
What does this mean for the Spirit? I asked to share the very same thing. We have all kinds of family here. What does this mean for the family? What does it mean for the Son and the Spirit?
Very proud of Kate. She will be participating in the 2002 transplant meetings in June, which we're looking forward to as well.
Where would that be at, Mom?
That will be in Florida. There's a national from all over the United States. Last time she was in, she won 2 silver medals.
What kind of medals?
2 silver medals.
2 silver medals.
Her first time.
Tell me about what your husband's name. I want to put that in track. You were running there because you wanted Carol for Kay to know about that. What's your husband's first name?
Ardell. His name is Ardell.
Ardell Newberg.
Yes.
God bless you. We're going to let you catch your breath. Okay, thanks for letting us be here.
Thank you.
On radio. God bless. Thanks, guys.
Woo! All right.
We love Channel 6.